All right, we've got the new BIOS installed. I held down the power button because I want to turn it off at this point, and I want to discuss it for a few minutes before we go on. I'm going to be using a flash drive that has a program on it called RescueZilla. RescueZilla is basically an imaging software. The reason I'm doing that instead of plugging in something like Mint Linux or something and run that directly is I want to use a copy of the whole operating system that I created, that I've stored. In this case, I've stored it on another flash drive. I'll show you. The flash drive is basically going to be used on both sides. I have a flash drive for both sides. Anyway, we're going to boot from the RescueZilla. I'm going to plug in the RescueZilla into the flash drive, or the USB port rather, and I'm going to power up. And it'll take it a few seconds, and then you'll see the bunny. And as soon as I see the bunny, I'm going to hit escape. So I'm hitting the escape key now. The reason I did the escape key is because I want to force it to boot from the flash drive that I have installed. So at this point, you can see it has default boot. It's highlighted. I'm going to use the arrow key, go down to boot menu, press enter, and then go down to my flash drive. It says USB, generic, tech glass, cool flash. I don't know what it is. Anyway, it's a flash drive. So once I've selected that, I'm going to press enter. And now it's going to start the process to run RescueZilla. And the only reason I'm running RescueZilla is because I have a stored image that has all the setup that I want for this type of Chromebook. And I'm going to go through the process and restore that image. And in the process of restoring that image, it'll bring back what do I have for the background, what applications do I want to show on the desktop, and everything is set up the way that it's going to be used by the people who are recipients of these computers. So I don't have to go through individually and tweak it. That's one of the better things. Okay, it's going to take it a few seconds for the RescueZilla to get going, so I'm going to pause it until that happens. All right, now we're at the main menu of RescueZilla. Now there's two main things I want to point out here. There's a restore and there's a backup. If you're not going to use RescueZilla, that's fine. Just look at it and that's fine. But if you plugged in a Linux version that you're going to run on this, that's fine also. Anyway, what I'm going to do is restore an image that I've already created. Now it's the image of the whole hard disk, or SSD in this case. If I am doing this for the first time and I've created a setup on the system, I could also do a backup. Now, a backup is basically a clone of whatever you have, and it's going to make an image. Anyway, you can read a lot more interesting things about RescueZilla. I'm going to click on Restore. And after I click on Restore, I'm going to plug in another flash drive on the other side where I store my images. And you can store the images a lot of different places, but for the purpose of the video, I just put it on the flash drive. Now I'm going to hit back and do the restore again because I didn't have the flash drive in there, and I won't see it until I do that. Again, if you're not interested in RescueZilla or anything, that's fine. You can forward through this and just go past the RescueZilla stuff. Now I'm going to go to my USB drive, which is on images. Okay, there's this USB drive is just named images. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to choose next. Again, if you had a Linux version that you just want to install from scratch, you could have done that instead of running RescueZilla. All right, I've got an image now, and this particular image is specific for this particular Chromebook or set of Chromebooks. So I'm going to highlight that, select next. Now I need to tell it where it's going to go. In this case, I'm going to tell it to go to the SSD drive that is on the Chromebook itself. And this particular Chromebook happens to have 29 gigabyte capacity, and that's great, but a lot of them do not. A lot of them have 16. So this image is built for 16, but I can expand it easily to accommodate the whole hard drive. I'm going to click next and keep clicking next. And now it's going to whir and click, and it's going to take about 5 minutes or so to restore that image. Remember, it's copying everything in that image, and I'm going to hit pause while it's doing that because it's just boring. Okay, it's just about done. It's copied the image. Now it's doing some housekeeping in order to get it to reboot. And we're going to have to do some additional housekeeping on this image that's unique to this image in order to get it to reboot into Linux once we've finished the imaging process. All right, we finished the restore, and you get a message saying it's done. We have to do a couple of quick things, though, before we leave RescueZilla, because it won't boot. This is specific to this image. It's not specific to all images that you do with RescueZilla, so just bear that in mind. It's specific for this particular Chromebook. We had to patch a kernel, and if you're familiar with Linux, you know what that is, but it's basically a big file that we put on there as a patch to be able to get the sound. But I have to also tell it now to do, there's a script that I'm going to apply, so let's just do that. I'm going to close the RescueZilla window here and go back to the RescueZilla desktop. And what I'm going to do is go into the file manager on the desktop. I'm going to click on images. I'm going to click on this initfix.sh. Now, this is a script. You don't have to know what it means or anything like that. I'm not sure I know what it means. This was built by Kevin, one of our volunteers recently, who helped us get through and make sure that everything was functional. So what I'm going to do is click in there and then Control-A, select all, Control-C to be able to copy it to the clipboard. Now at this point, I'm going to go into the terminal. There's just an icon there for the terminal. And this is the Linux terminal. Now what I'm going to do is simply go through and paste the selection. It's going to say, whoa, wait a minute, there's a lot of stuff here that could be dangerous. I'm going to click on paste anyway, and then I'm going to press enter. It's going to go through now and create a few files and generate a few things, but because we used a newer kernel than what came with the MX Linux that we're using, this is part of what it has to do. You can see it's generating a new kernel. Kernel happens to be 6.19.0-RC1. RC is release candidate 1, so this is kind of a preview. This is mid-February, and I was just notified that Linux has released the newest, complete, up-to-date kernel 6.19, so we might be putting that in there instead. But right now, for this image, that's what it has on there, and it's completely functional, so I don't worry about it. Okay, it's now finished, so I'm going to shut down RescueZilla. I'm just going to go down to the TV and hit shut down, and then hit shut down again. And it's going to turn it off. Now I'm turning it off because I got 2 flash drives in there. So I'm going to pull the 2 flash drives out. This time I'm going to power up, and it's going to look at whatever's on that SSD. And remember, I copied the image to the SSD. So at this point, I hit the power button. There's my bunny for the BIOS from Mr. Chromebox. And now it's starting the image. Now you can see the MX version of Linux I'm using is 25.1. And it's showing the kernel is 6.19.0 release candidate 1. And it's going to go through and eventually boot up. Takes a little longer the first time that we boot up, but then it's going to come to a username and password. And we have a password that is set very specifically for the image. And so we give that to the recipients of these computers. As long as I type it in correctly. And now it goes fully to the desktop. These are the login, or these are the icons that are put on the desktop. We make a standard login. I told you it has a very standard password. This explains the process to change your password once you get logged in. We want to make sure that people are able to do that. I have a browser over here for Google Chrome. I have a file manager. I'm going to go in the file manager for just a second here and show you that free space is 5.19, and that's about normal for 16 gig, even though we have a 29 gig. I will use parted magic to expand the partition so that it covers that full 32 meg. I have a browser icon, and we put Chrome on here instead of Firefox. I set the Chrome location when it first starts up to go to an honorary agreement. Our organization, Second Chance Computer Refurbishing, asks that people fill out this honorary agreement. We don't force them to do it, but it's a recognition that they're receiving something, and all we ask is they pay it forward. That is, they do something good for somebody else. So they're getting this for free. We don't charge for any computers, but this way they'll recognize that, okay, I'm supposed to do something for somebody else. And I kind of agree with that philosophy. Anyway, it's just back as a browser. If I go to YouTube now, just to verify the sound works, because sound is an issue sometimes when you install Linux on these Chromebooks. You just have to play with it. That's why we put that patched kernel, that 6.19 release candidate 1, so they could have sound. So let's see what the sound's like here. Man builds an amazing house. Okay.
3D printing is growing in popularity, and printers like the Bamboo Lab P2S AMS combo make jumping in.
Okay, this all looks good. I'm getting good sound. By the way, all of the top row icons on the Chromebook work on this particular image. Kevin, our Linux guru, made sure he installed a little script that's embedded in here so that if I hit the little icon for the volume control up or down, it's going to do that. I have brightness control. All of those icons across the top work, which is a useful feature. This is part of the reason why we build an image, is because all of these little tweaks then can be embedded and we don't have to do it on each one that we do. All right, hopefully this has been helpful to you. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll be looking forward to your questions. You have a good one. Bye.